you for joining us on this Saturday morning. Just a few things before we get started. I would like to do our land acknowledgement. So I am currently working in Austin, and as such, I'm on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Cherokee, and Sauna people. Our ongoing colonial presence on Indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children and Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. I'm going to put a little bit of information in the chat about land acknowledgements. So feel free to check out those links. And I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. So today we're going to hear presentations from Project WET, Project Learning Tree, Texas Aquatic Science, Project Wild, and the Texas Wildlife Association, all talking about the different curriculums that they offer. And we are going to go ahead and talk about all of this with the idea of what to do with a puddle on your school campus. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa with Texas Aquatic Science.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Just because of connection, I'm in the middle of a field in Poteet, Texas, at a strawberry festival. So I'm going to keep my camera off just so I can stay connected with everybody. So thank you for having me, Sarah. I'll be talking about the Texas Aquatic Science program with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Next slide. Cool. So the Texas Aquatic Science curriculum, it is for middle school and high school students. It includes hands-on activities and field activities. And so they can be done in the classroom or they can be done in the field. And it can be your school grounds, or you can take a field trip. I know those are possibly limited right now. But you can take a field trip to any of the Texas Aquatic Science certified field sites. They are TEKS aligned, all the activities, and it consists of a textbook, a student portal that's online. And I don't know if it's me, but it just disappeared.
Sorry, Melissa, we're having some screen share issues. Okay. I was hoping I could get it done real quick.
That's okay.
Frosty and Ted, no, it's still not working. Go ahead, Melissa, if you don't mind. I'm going to try and troubleshoot a little bit and get this working.
Okay, do you want me to go ahead and just continue with the presentation without the screens being up and just talk about the program? I'll do it that way. Okay. And so with the Texas Aquatic Science, it consists of a textbook, and it's a physical textbook. There is an online student portal that in the slides, it shows a picture of that as well too. A teacher guide, where the teacher guide is 14 chapters along with the textbook. So up on the screen, it's showing a little bit of the textbook. There's videos, supplemental materials, and then the Texas Aquatic Science curriculum. So with the textbook, there are 14 chapters. Those 14 chapters goes through water as in chemistry of the water, water as the resource that it is, and then the watersheds, living in the water, that is the pretty much adaptations on plants and animal life that lives in the water. Sun to Sunfish, it's chapter 5. That one talks about a lot of the food webs and food chains. Then we go into all the different types of ecosystems that are the aquatic ecosystems in Texas. Chapter 13 is fishing for conservation. So it talks a little bit about fishing practices and identifying fish. And the last one is water for people in the environment, which goes into water law. The format is that there's questions to consider. Those are more for the middle school age. And then there's challenge questions. Those are a little bit deeper in thinking processes. So those for the high school students, and then the career connections and figures and diagrams. And so I'm not sure, I'm only seeing a square that shows Sarah's little piece, but next screen is, it would be page 8. And so that's the textbook there we go, the student portal, awesome. So the student portal, everything that is in the textbook is put onto the student portal. And this is all free. So you can see there's the questions to consider, the challenge questions. Chapter 3 has all the figures and the diagrams. What's even better about the student portal is there are videos. So there's introductory videos to the chapters, as well as each of the chapters has career connections to it. So that one you'll see is a hydrologist. So next page. Cool. This talks about the teacher guide. The teacher guide is currently password protected just because there's answers in it and the students were getting that. So it's just a quick access email that is sent to me. There's detailed lesson plans and the layout. I'm going to go into greater detail with the layout. So since we're scattering, I'll just go to the next page because I have examples of the layout of the teacher guide. So the certified field sites for field trips, you can see that's the map and it's a GIS map. So wherever you're located, there are some areas you can see in the Panhandle area. We don't have any. I'm striving to get some certified field sites. Some of the places on the call are here with us today with Melissa Mullins. They are a certified field site, the place that she's at. So you can reach out to her as well too. We have just under 100 field sites. So if there's anybody that is interested, that is a nature center, an aquarium, anything like that, that provides aquatic science activities, reach out to me and we can get you set up to be a certified field site. Next call or next slide. So Texas Aquatic Science in a Puddle. So we're connecting all of our curriculums to a Puddle. And so with the Aquatic Science, there's investigations, models, stories, campaigns, and bringing it back to history. But most of them are science, hands-on field activity, investigations. And so this is the first 5 chapters that goes through surface tension. Many of the activities talk about runoff. There's topography, there's adaptations of aquatic organisms. And then chapter 5 is all about the aquatic food web. And then the next slide goes through the rest of the chapters. And so chapter 6, it's really heavy on biodiversity and populations. Chapter 7, I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. Pond successions, microorganisms, food web, soil sampling, ecosystem services. So all of these activities can really be used around a puddle on your school ground. Next slide. And so with the chapter 7, that's aquifers and springs, you say, how is that relevant to a puddle? Well, that can be where the puddle is coming from, but then you can also talk about where that puddle may be going down into an aquifer and watersheds. And so 7.3 is what I'll be doing a little bit more intent look at. So if you go to the next slide. So it's a moving experience. So all the activities have an essential concept. They have teaks aligned, and we are realigning those teaks with the new ones that just came out. Materials, and then estimated time. We are in the process of a really deep review of the teacher guide. And so estimated time is going to change to an actual minute, not a class period, because that could be different for multiple classes. Next slide. So then there is vocabulary, and we try to match the vocabulary just because of timing. We're not going to do this, but these are slides that I pulled directly from the Texas Aquatic Science Educator Workshop. Next slide. And then just a visual representation. So when we're talking about the vocabulary, some people are more visual learners. So having them actually see what a spring, a karst, and permeability and porosity, and going a little bit deeper into that. The next slide. So this slide does talk about permeability and porosity, and doing the experiments of putting water into beakers where it has sand, clay, and then gravel. So it talks in so that's one that can be done in the classroom. And you always want to have really good discussion around your experiment. You just don't want to do it and then just move on to the next lesson. So here's some good discussion points. One of our partners is also the Texas Water Development Board. They have really amazing maps. Next slide. There's a Texas Watershed viewer. All you're going to do is put your address in that top box, and then you can toggle through. We're not going to do it now. This is just a screenshot where it goes through the river subbasin, the watershed, the subwatershed. And next slide. And the last two slides here are just talking about the high school students are now starting to use our Texas Waters Exploring Water in the Watersheds. They can become volunteers, and the next slide, they can actually become Texas Water Specialists, and that gets them set in a career resource. So that have something on a resume that ties them already directly to Texas Parks and Wildlife upon graduating from high school. So they can use it in festivals, they can do creek cleanups, cars cleaning, demonstrations in their science fairs, as well as on their school grounds. I believe the next slide is just my contact information. So if anybody has any questions, I have to leave and go to the festival to cover the booth. But everybody who's on here is knowledgeable of the Texas Aquatic Science. So thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. And if anybody has any questions, that's my contact information and the main website that has all of our water education programs on it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Next up, we have Project Learning Tree. And so I'm going to hand it over to Ted and JC.
Hi, I'm Ted Stevens with the Texas Forestry Association.
Good morning, everybody. I'm JC Tosh with Texas A&M Forest Service.
We're here to tell you about Project Learning Tree. We've been around for over 40 years of teaching youth how to think, not what to think about complex environmental issues. Next slide, please. So the vision of PLT is to create a future where the next generation values the natural world and has the knowledge and skills necessary to make informed decisions and take responsible actions. And our mission is to advance environmental literacy, stewardship, and career pathways. You know, it's important. There is a lot of environmental issues that we deal with, and we just want to provide them the tools to be able to properly understand it and disseminate that information on their own. Next slide, please. Like I said before, we've been around since 1976. We've been a leader in environmental education. We are all over the United States, Canada. We've got a presence in Japan, Mexico, some places in South America. So we are international. We provide professional development that's in person and online. And if you're a formal educator, that includes TAC hours or CPE credits. Our materials are aligned to TEKS and are STEM correlated. And we have service learning programs and grants for action projects. We like to think that we make school fun, right? We all want to have fun. And we use the environment to engage your students in learning both outside and indoors. We teach many disciplines, so we can be shoehorned into all kinds of different lesson plans from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And our activities are hands-on and multidisciplinary. So we just try to provide you some fun activities to get your kids engaged and learning and just have fun indoors or outdoors in your classrooms. And our lesson plans are flexible, so they can just be easily put into your pre-existing lesson plans or integrated into like your nature center or wherever you need to use them. Next slide, please. We have a national network of partners. As you can see, we're associated with all kinds of different wonderful organizations around the nation and the world. Here locally in the state, myself, I'm with the Texas Forestry Association, and JC Tosh is with the Texas A&M Forest Service, and we're the state co-coordinators. And the local organization could be your school or your organization. We would love to work with you. What do we offer? We have online and in-person curriculum and professional development. Like I said before, it's aligned to state and national standards, and our new materials are aligned to the new NGSS standards, which I understand the new Texas TEKS are going to mirror very closely. Our kind of main curriculum that we like to teach on is our pre-K through 8th, which is brand new. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's an Explore Your Environment activity guide. We are super excited about it. And then we're also doing some new stuff with our green jobs, so we can encourage the next generation to find a job that's fulfilling for them, that's in the natural resources, green area, or forestry. We also have e-units, and we also have a host of secondary modules that are good for high school students. We'll talk about those later. And we also have green school investigations. We'll talk a little bit about that later too. Next slide, please. So how do we relate to Puddle? So this is a page of our brand new Explore Your Environment Pre-K through 8th guide. And this activity, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, that's the first page, and the second page is on the second. Everything's broken down where it's super easy to see the subjects, the concepts taught, the STEM skills that it's correlated to, the differentiated instruction, the materials it's going to take to do this hands-on activity, and the time considerations. So you say, hey, I got this much time to do this in the classroom. You can use this guide to find the perfect activity to fit that TEKS you're looking for, that subject you're looking for, the materials you might already have on hand in your classroom. But with this particular activity, this is students play a role of forest manager for a 400-acre parcel of public forest. And with the puddle, if we see a puddle in the middle of that 400-acre forest, your students could look at the different impacts of that. If we're going to put trails through there, we might need to route it around that puddle. Is that an area that's wet? We need to think about erosion concerns for those trails. If we're going to log some of that wood to make some great sustainable products, we might need to look at that. Is that a wet area? Does that mean we can only extract those trees at a certain time of year where it's drier and the equipment won't get stuck? Also, it could be a spring that's coming up from the ground, and that's why it's continually wet. And then we might have to think about the cultural resources, i.e. if we're Native Americans in this area, where there's other people that settled in this area and used it as a prehistoric camp. And if that's the case, we need to make sure not to build anything on top of it so we can protect those historical artifacts. So this particular activity just makes the students understand and think about everything that goes into the natural and cultural resource management of that particular piece of property. Next page, please. Then the next page is it shows you doing the activity. It breaks it down step by step, makes it super easy. And all the activities in this guide, there's 50 activities, are all in this exact same format to make it easy for you to be able to incorporate this into your pre-existing lesson plans. Next page, please. And then we have the academic standards, so you know where it's hitting, assessment, enrichment. So if you have some of those GT kids or those higher performing students, you'll be able to provide that enrichment for them to make it a better learning experience, explore other topics. And then there's great student pages, which I know teachers love the term black lines. They're very easy to put on the Xerox machine and make copies of. This is just one of the numerous student pages that's associated with this activity. Just for consideration of time, I only showed you one. But as you can see, everything's right there. You know exactly what TEKS it hits, its subject. You got the student pages. Man, you never knew that bringing this fun into your classroom could be so easy. Next page, please. And this shows our different curriculum sets that we have. On the top row, you'll see like Southeastern forests and climate change. That looks into topics about climate change and how that affects the forests, which I know this program's for all over Texas, but those forests would be like East Texas, Houston area, Beaumont. Places we live is about, the human environment interaction with the place that we live in and considerations for that. Forests of the world is great for geography teachers. It talks about all kinds of topics of different forests around the world. We have environmental experiences, which is really good for those little fellas for their early childhood education. Those are fun hands-on activities. It includes a lot of arts and crafts. And then on the bottom is the green school investigations, which encourages your students to do an energy audit of their campus and to present those findings to the school board so they know that they themselves can take action and make their campus more green. And then finally, the Green Jobs Guide, which is brand new, that just came out, and it's also STEM correlated. And that shows your students about middle school through high school about all the wonderful career opportunities available for them in natural resources. And to whet your appetite a little bit, because if you do want these curriculum sets, you do have to purchase them. You can reach out to us at the coordinators to help you with that. And we also put on those workshops, which typically, like an online workshop, you'll get 6 hours of PD, and in person, it'll be more like 8 hours. We do have some 2-day ones where you'll get 16 hours. But to whet your appetite and to kind of check it out without having to pay anything, just surf on over to plt.org. At the top, you'll see resources. And then that will have all kinds of free activities that you can use and go ahead and incorporate. And then if you like those, give us a call. We'd love to work with you and get PLT into your classroom. Next slide, please. And here's our contact info. If you want to go ahead and write this down and reach out to us, the local Texas PLT page is plttexas.org. That's where we have our TEKS alignments, Texas connections, everything that shows you how Project Learning Tree works so well in Texas. The national page where you can find a lot of those free resources is at plt.org. And if you need to email us, we're texas@texasforestry.org. JC and I would love to work with you, so please reach out to us.
Thanks, Ted and JC. Our next one is going to be Melissa Mullen, no, Kiki Corey, sorry, with Project Wild. And Kiki is here, so I'm gonna let her go ahead and, instead of doing our video, go ahead and let her present.
So I am working on my phone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, so you want to go back to the start one, maybe? Can you go back a slide? Thank you. So Project Wild, I'm so glad to see you guys. I am sitting in line at the drive-through vaccine place, proving that I'm not going to be sick after the shot. So I'm pretty excited. Project Wild, like the other programs, is all about engaging activities. And one of the things I especially love about it is that those activities are very intentionally designed to address many learning styles and to be interdisciplinary. Next slide. For example, it may ask the students to think more deeply about our puddle using language arts. Next slide. Aqua Words is an activity in Aquatic Wild, which is the K-12 piece of the Project Wild suite that addresses many, mainly aquatic ecosystems and wildlife. So for Aquatic Words, first we brainstorm 100 words about a puddle. This would be way fun to do in breakout rooms or small groups, but with limited time, we'll just demonstrate. So Sarah, this one's got like a lot of animation. So if you'll go ahead and start forwarding them, go to the next slide, and then it's gonna like pop up a bunch of different words, okay? So of course, in a brainstorm, we don't assess or ask why, we just write them all down and whether they seem to make sense or not, which is good news because these were the top 50-ish words I could come up with. Some words may simply be descriptive, some may conjure emotion or imagery, some may reflect the puddle's role in the ecosystem. Depending on whether it's an introductory activity or in the middle of a lesson or culminating, the teacher may provide different support or have different expectations. So we'll just get all of those words up. Okay, good. Excellent timing. All right. So then next we sort them. Yeah, go ahead to the next one. Yeah. So next we sort them and connect them together in a mind map. And this one's got a lot of those. Just keep clicking through it, Sarah. So this is a sort of a quick and dirty clumping to give you an idea of what that might look like. See, I put the wildlife related things in one, sort of the descriptive words, put plants in another, weather things together. Every group will come up with different words and different ways of clumping, and that's what you want. In person, this is fun to do with Post-its on a wall, and online you might use something like Padlet. Discussion would ensue of why words were put together and how they might break into related clumps. We'd get explanations of the words that didn't seem to make sense. And all that discussion is practice in communicating and understanding other people's perspectives. If it was an introductory exercise, the teacher could be checking for prior knowledge. If in the middle of a lesson, it could be a formative assessment, or you could be correcting misconceptions. And with a good rubric, it could totally be a summative assessment. So much more fun than a traditional test. And now I'm out of the waiting room. Ha. Okay, next slide. So, and I lost my train of thought because we pulled out of the parking lot, sorry. The next thing we would do is we would start using those words. And so if you were going to start with the word water, then use some of these words that are here and add as many as you don't, and take them of your own as you'd like, and take a moment to write a poetic statement that is the definition of water using these words. And I am super bad at watching chat while I'm presenting. So if some of you guys, others who are also presenters, if you'd like to chime in and respond to that, that would be terrific.
Kiki,
We'll
we
give you
don't
guys
have
a few.
anything in the chat yet, but I'm sure people are thinking about their poems, so we'll be putting something in soon.
Right, and you know, that's one of the interesting things with Zoom, is that you have to give it a moment to think, and then you have to give folks a moment to type in there. Let's see, maybe I can look at chat while I'm doing this. We'll see. So again, what we're doing is we're taking the word water, and then we're writing a definition of water in a poetic way using some of the words we came up with. Water is watershed. Melissa started with that one. That's good.
I was trying to do an acrostic poem, you know, I think that's what they're called, where you do W-A-T-R, and I've gotten ahead of myself. Sorry, Kiki.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead to the next slide. And this is a different one. Oh, wait, Sandra Johnson got something in the chat. Let's see. Okay. So
We have from JC, water, from thunderstorm to soil, a storm brings the rain, the runoff soaks in, the stream swells, the clouds move onward.
that's beautiful. See how cool and fun that is?
That is fun. I'm going to use that one. I really, really like that one.
Yeah. So quickly here, right on Zoom, we come up with these things. So another one would be, this is the slide that Sarah just put up, is a different clumping of those words. And this one, you could start with water is, and then use some of those words. Looks like the chat is beginning to take off. Took us a minute to get our brains thinking like this.
The one we have from Sandra Johnson is puddle, seeping, evaporating, water for birds, water for wildlife, bringing images to life.
That's great. We'll give you guys a few more minutes to come up with a few, because I'm sure that you're thinking, and if I move on, you'll be like, oh man, I almost got it in the chat. Water is shiny, reflections of the world above, blending a mysterious air of the beautiful world around us. I love it.
We also have one, water is wet, sometimes it's brown, irregular shapes, mushy, gushy, gooey, slimy, reflections, some still, some shiny, some mysterious.
And I love the way the different clumpings of words, when you put them together and try to do this, you end up with sort of different feelings and different themes about your statements. So you want to go ahead to the next slide? You can go to traditional poetry, and in Project Wild, there's a similar activity called animal poetry, and that includes the specific structure from some of the common forms, such as haiku, and then the next slide. And diamante, and this one is a very formulaic poem, and that's sometimes helpful for people who don't have a lot of confidence in their creative language abilities, or like if you're just trying to get things rolling. Next slide. And then the acrostic, which Melissa was trying to come up with, but I don't know how you could do that in the chat. But anyway, and this is such an easy form of poem to remember. And because it's sort of formulaic, it's a really good way to get things started. Next slide. Or you could go rogue with free verse, or shaped poems blend language and the visual arts together. And that's what makes Project Wild is so powerful, is that interdisciplinary blending. And that's one of, I said that earlier, that's one of the things I really, really love about it. Next slide. So in Project Wild, there's 3 separate pieces to the Texas Project Wild suite. Project Wild and Aquatic Wild are both K-12, and Growing Up Wild is designed for 3 to 7-year-olds. They're all aligned with core subject teaks and designed to be incorporated into classroom plans. However, they can stand alone as curriculum, for instance, in a camp or after school setting. I have taken one of the topics and built an entire summer camp's experience around a sequence of wild activities. There are indexes and planning guides in the books. Next slide. And that's why you can only get the books through a workshop. Your facilitator will lead you and your fellow participants through some activities, as well as discussion from the educator perspective. So you leave knowing how to find what you need and have a good idea of the ways you will use it in your own setting. The K-12 book workshops, Project Wild and Aquatic Wild, are a minimum of 6 hours each. Growing Up Wild only has to be 3 hours, but it can be longer if you want it to be. And right now they're primarily online with some independent field work. For instance, you may have 4 hours on Zoom, obviously with breaks, and then 2 hours worth of activities that you can do in your own backyard or nearby park. And with that, I will hand it over to whoever is going next.
Thank you, Kiki. Next up, we have Melissa Mullins with Project Wet.
Thanks so much. Kathy, did you share your computer sound? I do have a couple of video clips, just checking before we get there.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, if we get there, you can always share and unshare. All right, so I'm Melissa Mullins, and I work at Baylor University. So normally I'd have Baylor branded things here, Sikkim Bears, but we are also at my Aquatic Research Center a host institution for Project WET, which is Water Education Today, and that's what I'll be talking about. Next slide, please. So this is Project WET's mission statement. If you'd go ahead and play the mission video, we'll see real quick if our sound's shared.
Water, it's a vital ingredient for life on Earth. Grows our food, powers
Looks like it's working.
keeps us clean, and makes us happy. Life would not be the same without it. But our water is threatened by pollution, mismanagement, and Earth's changing climate. Project WET, Water Education Today, provides the critical link between today's water stress and tomorrow's thriving communities. Through proven science and hands-on learning, our goal is to advance water education to help address global challenges and inspire local solutions. Project WET is for everyone. Educators and students of all ages use our lessons in their classrooms. Corporations rely on our practical approach to teach their employees the value of water and its inherent connection to STEM. Millions of people in 80 countries and all 50 states work with Project WET each year. we envision a world in which action-oriented education enables a better understanding of the value of water, ensuring a sustainable future for all of us. We can't wait until tomorrow to better understand the value of water. We need Project WET, water education today.
All right, great. So next slide.
Water, it's a
So, oh, I think, yeah, there we go. So Project WET really kind of embraces that idea of thinking globally and acting locally. They have a real strong global presence, but they also have local presence in a lot of communities in Texas. And so like a lot of the projects that you're hearing about today, they achieve their mission through a variety of avenues. They have many publications, and I'll just highlight a couple of those in a moment. They also do training workshops for educators at all levels. So some of the publications are available just for purchase online. Others you have to go through a workshop to get. One thing that's a little different perhaps than some of the other programs is they do customize projects for corporations, government organizations, and watershed managers. I'm part of the USA Network, and we're part of a worldwide network of educators. Next slide, please. So here's a few of the pubs just highlighted. The most popular one is the Curriculum and Activity Guide 2.0. This has over 60 activities focused on water. It's award-winning and endorsed by NSTA, and it is for K through 12. They also have an early childhood guide. They have kids booklets, posters, storybooks, and a lot of the publications are available as free or low-cost digital downloads. Another thing that's a little different is many of the publications are available in multiple languages, which could be helpful for you depending on where you teach. Next slide, please. So how do you get tapped into Project WET? I said it has a global presence, and it does, but on their website, projectwet.org, there's an interactive map, and you can just put in your location, and it will tell you where the closest host institution to you is. So for some of you, that could be me. It could be somebody else in Texas. Unlike some of the other programs that you're hearing from today, there is no statewide coordinator for Project WET. There is no Parks and Wildlife who has adopted Project WET. So the folks that that are host institutions for Project WET do this voluntarily because water is their mission usually, and it's usually a part of what they do. But we're all real active and talk to each other. If you can't get a hold of the person closest to you, you're welcome to get in touch with me. Next slide, please. So some current things going on at Project WET, like everyone, I guess, the last year. Project WET is focused on putting out home and distance learning resources that are available for people to use no matter where they're learning from, and a lot of those are free on their website. Also, during this past year, they put out a new climate, water, and resilience educator guide, and we've been doing some online workshops. You do have to attend a workshop to get that guide. It's an outstanding guide, and I highly recommend getting in touch with your coordinator if you're interested in training and for that. Next slide, please. So we were tasked with what would you do with a puddle? I said in the schoolyard, it's outside your window. This was hard for me because Project WET, obviously everything in there is related to water, but because I like to get kids outside, and I'm assuming a lot of you do too, I picked Rainy Day Hike, which is an activity in Project WET that's suited for upper elementary and middle school. And it starts with a question: what do puddles on your playground, the trash in your school's parking lot, and a nearby lake or stream have in common? And the activities that students do include making a map of their school grounds and identifying where they think water would flow, where there might be sources of pollution. And they do this during a fair weather hike at a time when it isn't raining. And then when it does rain, they go out and do another hike and see where they correct. Did the water flow where they thought? Where does the water go after it leaves their school ground? And there's a quote from this. There's a whole lot more to this activity. I'm just giving you a real quick overview, but there's a quote from it that I love, which says, "Puddles are the collection sites of many watersheds." So if you study watersheds, which a lot of us do, or introduce watershed concepts, thinking of puddles as the receiving water body for a little mini watershed is a great way to get students tied to watersheds. Next slide, please. Another thing that I would use to either introduce the puddle hike or to follow up on it is this discoverwater.org. website. I say website, it's a web page that is a student facing activity that, and I didn't want to do the animation, but it's super engaging. Kids, it gamifies basically water education. It's really good for sort of tweener years, again, that upper elementary, even lower elementary and middle school. And they click anywhere on there and it brings up all these videos and activities and printing sheets. And I've used it with Girl Scouts a lot, and it's super engaging and the kids really love it. So I would use that. Next slide, please. Brand new from Project Wet, and it's looking like it won't give us access, and that's okay because I can give back some of our time. I think we're a little bit behind, but brand new from Project Wet, I mean, this is literally just coming out right now, is something called Wet Connect and Water Star certification. And what Wet Connect is all about is getting digital access to a lot of the Project Wet activities. They already have digital access to most everything, but this is sort of letting teachers and schools pick, like if they want to have a subscription plan for certain types of activities. And you can get a free trial for Wet Connect right now, since it's just starting out. I encourage anyone who's interested in that to look on the projectwet.org website and find that. Water Star certification is a new thing that's sort of like Green Schools program. So getting schools to achieve this Water Star certification, there's a lot more details about that as well. And I think that that's my last slide, but you can go on and see to the next one, please. Oh, one more thing, easy ways to connect. There's a lot of different things you can do, but what I would suggest is these 4 steps. Go to projectwet.org, sign up for updates, and try out some of the free downloads that are available there now in the Project Wet store. That's a good way for you to see if you like the activities, if they work for you in your classroom. And then contact the coordinator nearest you for training. Wherever you are in Texas, if you want to get further trained, there is a coordinator near you. Next slide. And that's my contact info. Sarah will be sharing that. That's all I have. I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
Thank you, Melissa. And just to let everyone know, I will be sharing these slides in our follow-up email. So if you have missed any contact information, no worries, you'll be getting all of that. So next, I'm going to be passing it on to Cassie with the Texas Wildlife Association.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Cassie Sheffer-Giesland. I am the Director of Youth Education with the Texas Wildlife Association. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it here and talk about how we do relate to a puddle. TWA does have water resources available, as well as wildlife and land stewardship resources. So to talk about our puddle, we actually have a lesson as part of our Stewarding Texas curriculum that is Raindrop Family's Texas Adventure. So it is a story written for K through 5, and it actually takes the students through kind of the processes of a water cycle, but with the Raindrop family. And so connecting to our puddle here, I'll read just a little bit of it here. So each family member smiled as they landed on their puddle because each of them remembered the importance of their job. They learned that puddles form as a result of fresh rainwater that does not soak into the ground. Sometimes puddles dry up in the sunshine or drain into larger bodies of water. One family member recalled learning about migration, was thrilled to see monarch butterflies resting on a nearby puddle. So again, just one of the many different water resources that we have available. And this lesson, as I mentioned, is part of our Stewarding Texas curriculum. It is online. It is free to access, as are all of our programs actually are free, available at no charge to anyone across Texas. And Stewarding Texas is aligned to K through 12. It is 40 lessons that are available. Again, just create an online free account, and you have access to the lessons and any sort of media or PowerPoints that are also aligned with it. So TWA's mission, just real quickly, we are very much about protecting private property rights, as Texas is more than 95% privately owned. And we're a membership organization, again, serving Texans and again, those that just love stewarding Texas wildlife. And we are a membership organization of over 8,000 members. So if anybody's interested to become a member, we actually do offer educator discounts and student discounts as well. So I know we'll be sharing information via, I think, either a PDF or a Google Drive later that has information, all of these links, including how to become a member of TWA. And so again, just real quickly, we do have multiple kind of legs of the organization, but the Conservation Legacy Department is here to educate generations of Texans about land stewardship, and everything from classroom to outdoor programs. And I just want to let y'all know about some of the available options that we do have for you all across the state as educators. This is our kind of visual of all of our educators across the state. And you can see here that some of them, we have some in the DFW, Houston, South Texas, and West Texas areas that actually are available to come out to you. Our Wildlife by Design program, we do have a water program called Where is Our Water, where we can come to your classroom and provide a presentation. We can take over your class, or several classes actually. We can repeat the same presentation up to 6 times that day. And we will take over the classroom and do a hands-on demonstration on one of our 5 topics. So our water one, we can talk about all the water in the world. We can talk about water, the water cycle, runoff, watersheds, pollution, and again, very interactive and K-8 science teaks aligned, and again, completely free. It is a first come, first serve, and for the in-classroom presentations, as soon as we can go back in class, again, they're offered in those areas highlighted in blue on the map there. Now, also though, due to COVID, as others have mentioned, we then took our programs and we created Wildlife by Design across Texas. So these are essentially, we are offering up our programs virtually, and they're still live with an educator, but to all of those areas kind of outside of those blue ones that I showed earlier. So now anyone across the state can get one of our Wildlife by Design programs, again, focusing on those 5 different topics below. One thing just really quickly wanted to let y'all know about as educators, we have our Critter Connections available. It's our youth magazine of the Texas Wildlife Association. It comes out 4 times a year, so twice a semester, and again, completely free. You can sign up for an individual subscription, or you can sign up for a class set, and we'll ship them to your either site or school, again, 4 times a year. The sets are 25 in a set. And we've started doing a live read-along too, trying to be a little bit cross-curricular. We have live read-alongs, or we also have pre-recorded ones where you can see down at the bottom there, I took a screenshot of one of the slides that the words actually bold as our reader is kind of reading along so the students can read along with them. And again, each one of these is always focused on a native Texas animal. Moving to our discovery trunks. We have a picture there, think of a Foot Locker size kit. Again, free for anyone across the state. Anyone, whether a formal or informal educator, can check these out. We loan them out for a 2-week reservation period. We have 7 different topics that you can see down in that blue bar on the screen. And we do have a water trunk called More Than a Drop. And so inside inside every trunk, actually, there is a binder full of K-8 science teaks aligned lessons. And then each trunk comes with hands-on materials. So you can see an example up there of the top of our Exploring Adaptations trunk, but the water trunk comes with sieves, it comes with different water testing materials. And again, you use it for 2 weeks, however you'd like, and then we actually ship it to you and we'll pick it up from you for free anywhere across the state. And then moving on to our distance learning. During these virtual times, distance learning has definitely been popular. We've had these programs, our on-demand webinars and our video conferences for years now. And you can see here, there are a couple that I'll highlight. Our newest one, you can see at the top right, is our Wetland Ecosystems program. And then we also have an Aquifers and Spring Ecosystems program. So as you can see, again, very much wildlife and land focused. We have a soil program, but again, always including water as one of those basic needs of wildlife. Again, those are found on our website, available 24/7. All you have to do is register for free. And then you have access to these programs. You have the presenter that will actually stop and ask questions, even though it is pre-recorded, and all of them come along with a follow-along worksheet and a post worksheet as well. Same with our live programs. We've had bats and skunks and alligators in our studio before. So these are with a live wildlife rehabilitator in our studio. Again, free for you all to join. And they are through our program Connect to Texas, which is out of the DFW area. You can connect to these with either either via the video conference equipment now or Zoom. Zoom used to be a thing that nobody knew about, and now you can connect via Zoom and ask live, interaction with that wildlife rehabilitator, ask questions, and have your students interact with them. And then I think this is our last thing, is our teacher workshops. We do offer, again, free, no cost teacher workshops to anyone across the state. And typically they're in person, again, hosted by those regional educators that I talked about earlier. But because of COVID, we did take them virtual. And so we actually have spring and summer already on the calendars. So our first spring workshop, I think, will take place next month, in about a month from now. So you can go online to our website and register. Our spring are going to be one agenda. This summer, we're switching over to a new agenda. So you can actually double up with us if you'd like. And with those, typically it's a 6-hour in person. With our virtual, we've taken it to a 3-hour live Zoom. And then we do 3 hours of self-directed work that you can do after the program is over and just turn in your kind of assignments to your host. So again, K through 8, Science Teaks Aligned, we'll go over, I think, 10 of our activities, from on-demand webinars, discovery trunks, and our Stewarding Texas curriculum. So again, I'd hope to see y'all at those. Again, it's great. You get the CPE hours, and also they are GT aligned, we would feel. But again, that's up to the district to include that. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. If you want to go ahead and put up the slide with all of our contact information. Once again, I will be sharing this out. So if you don't have the ability to furiously scribble down everyone's email address, no worry, I'll be sharing that. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is open it up for questions. We've got a relatively small group on the line today, so if you just want to take yourself off mute, if you have any questions, we can do it that way. Or if you would prefer, you can always put them in the chat and I'll share them.
I love the long pauses as we wait for questions. Hopefully that means there are none, in a good way.
I will be sharing all of the contact information, so if you all have questions that you want to just email to someone individually, you are more than welcome to do that as well. Thank you everyone for your time today. This workshop really came out of a lot of requests from our teacher friends asking, can you help me understand the difference between each of these curricula? And so thank you so much everyone for sharing and hopefully giving a little bit more clarity to our friends that are just starting on this journey of teaching more outdoors. So thank you so much. If anyone has a question, please feel free to interrupt me, but I'll just kind of wrap us up. I will be emailing out this recording along with these resources on Monday. And so be on the lookout for that. Included in that will be directions on getting your certificate if you are needing some hours for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next teacher workshop will be on May 8th. And in that one, we will be talking about nature loose parts play. So if any of you are very interested in that, it will be a great workshop to be talking about that and some of the risks and safety protocols that go with that as well, because I know there's a lot of questions that come with that.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Did you talk about the spreadsheet that JC put together?
I have not. Thank you for the reminder, Kiki. In our email that goes out Monday, there will also be a spreadsheet that all of our presenters have helped put together that shows specifically grade, topic, what their curriculums cover. So if you're looking for something specifically for 5th graders on watersheds, it'll let you know what activities go well with each of these curricula. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.